تفضلي دكتورة.
اوكي، شلونكم؟ شخباركم؟ معكم دكتورة فجر. I've just met all of you. It's gonna be English شوية عربي. انزين، وراح نشوف شلون نقدر نتفاهم بهالطريقة لأن my training's in English. وصراحة I'm very passionate على هالسبجكت عن التبني وعن الايدنتيتي. عرفت أول شيء من زينة السلطان عن هالموضوع وما قصرت ميو دوسري introduced us. فاليوم نتكلم عن الهوية. ودي أتكلم عن هوية الأدابتيز وهوية بعد الناس اللي they are adopting them. I know we said just to stick with adoptees, but I feel it's very important as well. فلما نتكلم عن الهوية شنو يجيكم بالكم؟ identity شيء fluid يتغير مع الناس، مع المكان، مع شلون احنا أي level قاعد we're developing in. ف it's really important لما نتكلم عن identity نعرف شنو هالشخص بالضبط thinks of identity. شنو يصير في فقدان الأم والأب ساعات يكون وايد صعب، وهذا شيء كلنا نعرفه. So what happens is that يصير القصة اللي احنا متعودين عليها إن نولد ونروح مدرسة ونكبر ونتزوج وكل هذا تتغير القصة. فشنو نسوي بهذا الموضوع؟ We have to work with where the person is at that time. Okay? And we have to see where they are in their level of developing. فشلون نعرف هذا؟ when we meet these gatherings are so great صراحة. They bring people together. وشلون إن كلنا نعرف إيش قاعد نسوي. Anybody has any questions? Okay. So basically, what happens with adoption is that we're always looking forward and we're always looking backwards. Where we came from is so important to us, and where we're going is so important to us. But it's very important to be aware إن هالأشياء وايد تأثر. Okay, تأثر بس مع the right kind of parenting and the understanding and the ability to talk about it, we're able to work with it more. So I learned a lot about adoption recently, and I learned it's also important to be very honest about where we are. قلبت إنجليزي شوية. إيه.
حاجة بترجمة؟
أكيد.
منو؟ وراي؟
أنا.
أوكي.
أنا عندي فرنش وإيطالي.
إيه صح.
ما شاء الله. فهي الصراحة مهمة. وديبي راح تتكلم بعدين، قالت لنا زينة راح تتكلم بعدين عن the late learners which is so important. أنا شغلي كأخصائية نفسية لما أتعامل مع ناس بالكلينيك أتعامل معاهم من الطفولة نرد لورا ونتكلم شنو صار بالضبط، وأهم شيء مكان الأب والأم في هذا الموضوع. ولما تكلمت عن هالموضوع قبل إن عرفت إن ساعات في وايد difficulties إن في فراغ عاطفي. هذا اللي يصير and اللي يصير إن الأمهات ولا الأبهات قاعد يجربون so hard to fix it and they work so hard to understand what's going on. فهذا الشيء وايد مهم. بس ساعات شنو يصير إنه يصير في boundary crossing which happens out of love. مو إنه يعني it's a bad thing. فمن الحب ساعات الواحد يجرب إنه يساعد، بس بعض الأوقات يحتاج تدخل من أخصائي نفسي. إنه شنو قاعد يصير؟ إنه يعطي support حق الأم بعد، مو بس حق الأطفال. يعني حتى الأم تحتاج مساعدة وتحتاج خطة إن how to handle things. لأن صراحة أنا سميت المحاضرة مالتي working in the dark. We don't know what's going on ساعات. Neither side knows what's going on. Either the adoptees or the parents. فساعات we have to feel our way through ونعرف إن ساعات لما يكون في صدمة في حياة الإنسان النمو يوقف. إنزين؟ فلازم نعرف شنو إحنا وين وصلنا بالنمو النفسي. وساعات لما تصير صدمة نرد قري إلى نمو مختلف developmental time. one of the defense mechanisms اللي اسمها regression نسويها لما we feel threatened، لما نخاف نرد أطفال مرة ثانية. زين، وهذا شيء جدا طبيعي مع كلنا. بس شلون احنا نتعامل مع هذا الموضوع؟ نتعامل مع هذا الموضوع ان نكون مع الشخص there present. انا موجودة I'm here to talk.
بس فهمينا شنو يعني regression؟ يعني شنو يعني يرد لورا؟ يعني يتصرف كياهل؟ يعني هو مثلا عمره مثلا نقول 15 16 يتصرف ك9 سنين، يعني ما فهمت عليك. يصير واذا عمره مثلا 40 سنة يرد 20. It's their way of coping. It feels safe. هذا اللي تعودوا عليه. فإحنا لما يجينا صدمة we want to feel safe again. فلما إحنا نكون والشيء الغريب إن في وقت الصدمة احتمال الواحد ما يحس إنه أوكي أنا بنهار، يصير عقد.
لما يحس بالأمان يعني.
لما يحس بالأمان، لما يحس إنه في حب ويحس إنه في احتواء. That's the time you break down. فهذا جدا جدا صعب يعني. فاحنا شو نسوي كثيرابيست و you can take information from this as mothers and as fathers إن you hold them مو necessarily physically تكونون موجودين، تكونون البيس يعني الأم والطفل بالبداية لازم يكون شيء اسمه secure base. الأم تخلي البيبي يلعب بس هي موجودة، فالبيبي لما يريد يقول اوكي she's there اقدر اروح يمكن ابعد شوي ارد امي للحين موجودة. ونفس الافكار نقدر نستخدمها مع الادوبشن ولا مع kids in general. It's not just adoption يعني إنه to always be there no matter what. Okay, while taking care of yourself in the process. Self-care is something that I find really really important. I'm very وايد أهم شيء الاعتناء بالذات، لأن ساعات تصير العالم إنه يعني كفكرة الادوبشن just takes over everything وننسى إحنا منو كناس، ننسى إحنا أمهات، ننسى إحنا خوان، ننسى إحنا خوات. ف it's very important to have the secure base مثل ما قلت. الاتاتشمنت ليفلز أهم شيء إنه يكون الاتاتشمنت صحي. Okay, and that takes توعية and that takes time. وأهم شيء اللي I really advise إنه ما ناخذ role of therapists. We get someone involved. Because at the end of the day it's mothers and fathers أمهات وأبهات. At the end of the day وساعات المشكلة تكون شوية أكبر. وأبي أتكلم عن الهوية، والهوية تكون مخلوقة in the first 5 years of life. تقعدين you create an identity. You test it out لما تكونون مراهقين بعدين 14 15 16. وأهم شيء إن الواحد يخلي الطفل to express themselves, to be themselves. طبعاً إحنا مجتمعنا غير. إحنا how far can we go with this؟ بس بالثيرابي مثلاً نخلي الشخص to have a safe space to express exactly who they are, whatever it is. لأن if they can.
How do they express themselves?
يعني مثلاً I have clients who live in ways that يعني المجتمع is not acceptable. But in that space they tell me what they want, they tell me who they are.
Okay.
أعطيهم that place for which they can grow and think.
Okay.
بحيث لما يطلعون يحسون إنه okay I'm integrated، ما فيني اللي نسميه إحنا البارانويد سكيزويد البلاك and white thinking. يا كذي يا صح يا غلط، يا أنا كذي يا أنا كذي. ف having that space, that safe space to do that وايد مهم. لأن فعلاً ال identity is so important من ناحية يعني where do I belong؟ أنا وين أنتمي إلى وين؟ ويوني كلاينتس بهالكلام، يعني تلقونهم مثلاً disabled ولا مثلاً عندهم different ways of thinking، يقولون أنا ما عندي مكان أنتمي إليه. وأنا أقول له إن الأماكن موجودة. هذا ليش support groups مثل هذا are so important إنه يعطون الناس أماكن ينتمون إليها without judgment.
Okay.
والjudgment مو بس towards the people who are adopted, it's towards the people who are adopting. وأنا أحس إذا أنت سمعت عن هذا الكلام أنا صراحة أنا I'm so proud to be part of this وإني أشوف إن في community كذي out there. عرفت قصدي؟ أي أحد عنده أي أسئلة؟ No? Okay. ف that's something that I think is so important to do. وبعد من ناحية الثيرابي that's also involved, I think that whilst we can also use these ideas, we also have to be careful of what we do. I'm thinking more interactive. أي أحد عنده سيناريوز يبي مساعدة فيه ولا يبي يتكلم عن أي شيء؟
أنا يعني أقدر أربط إن أول فترة لما كنا نجتمع كانوا يفضلون إن إحنا بروحنا ما ندخل أحد عشان ياخذون راحتهم بالكلام.
إيه.
بس أعتقد الفترة الأخيرة بدأوا شوي يرتاحون لأن صرت لما أجيب ناس
إيه.
يعني they're more relaxed, they're more confident مع الوقت. كانوا الأمهات نفسهم.
So you're creating a supportive community. هذا أهم شيء. It gives the people a place to belong.
belonging. صح. Makes sense.
It does. It does.
والسبيس اللي يحتاجونه بالوقت اللي يجربون الهوية همًا can you relate genetically حق هم شنو أصولهم أو شنو does it make a difference؟
الجينيتكس؟
إيه.
طبعًا الجينيتكس.
لأن عيالنا genetically يعني they belong to different genes مالتهم غير عنا إحنا.
I think it's very interesting that we talked about face recognition.
إيه.
To the idea in which we can like نشبه بعض ولا ما نشبه بعض.
إيه.
It's so important to take that into account and to also be able to إن نوعي الأطفال إن أوكي إحنا غير. وأنا وين أكو أدابتيز هني اللي يقدرون طبعًا يشرحون أحسن مني كل هالأشياء، بس إن هذا الشيء جدًا مهم إن أنا شلون ما أشبه أهلي وشلون يعني where do I belong مرة ثانية. فأنا أتذكر أنت قلتي لي عن one of your initiatives إنه to just make sure that there are examples in the media of people who are doing well, you know, who are achieving things out there. زين، فهذا الشيء جدا مهم. يعني أنا وايد صعب جايتكم من كأخصائية نفسية إني أتكلم عن هالأدوبشن، لأن صراحة أنا my experience with it has been brief. وأحس إن you guys should be the ones telling me what to do صراحة.
فجر بس أهم في شيء إن نلاحظ إن في اختلاف والمجتمع إحنا ونجمع عيالنا، هذا it's a very valid point to have the support group. but بنفس الوقت عيالنا ترى ما يقول التفكير بالمجتمع.
إيه طبعًا. أنا
ودي خلاص درب وانتهى الموضوع وبس لا تدوخيني. يعني انتهى الموضوع، ما في داعي كل مرة نتحكى فيه.
بالضبط.
فهو اكو مثلا امهات ثانية بدا يضايق عيالهم. فهو التفكير يعني ما ادري متى الواحد يعني يوقف سالفة التفكير ان التغيير انت يو بيلونج ومن الحكي هذا. بحيث انه ما يصير يضايق ويعطي مفهوم العكسي.
اي انا وافقك بهالنقطة، وانا اعتقد what you can do is let the kid lead the role. مثل ما احنا بالكلاينت سنتر ثيرابي مو احنا اللي we force our agenda وافكارنا ومخاوفنا على الكلاينت، خلي هو يدير وين يبي يروح. اكو questions اكو تساؤلات يلج، بس to push your يعني بس to push an agenda ان انت مو عنك انت بس، قصدي ان انا اللي فيني هالمخاوف، انا اللي I want to be an over attentive mother. هذا بعد مثل ما قلتي يعكس سلبيه.
بعدين كل عمر، اي عمر قلتي بين 5 الهويه تتعزز. بعدين في اعمار ثانيه، في اولويات ثانيه،
في الادلسنس.
اي عمر يرجع يفكر بهويته. يعني الحين انا وانت اولوياتها مختلفه تماما. فاي عمر اللي يبدا يرجع ويبحث ويدور، مثل الناس اللي راحوا من اللي راح سوى دي ان اي تيست وما ادري شنو. فاي عمر اللي اتوقع هالاشياء تصير مره ثانيه.
صدقين على مدى الحياه.
عمره صغير.
نعم. يسالون اسئله عمرهم 6 7 سنين، وايد واعيين.
مو ممكن يرجع مره ثانيه. يعني يرجع كطفل.
إذا كان يسجل something الحين بالسنين الأولى سنين تكوين الهوية. زين، شنو لازم نسوي؟ يعني if you can go like ages and stages.
Ages and stages I can work with that. Basically إنه في السن المبكر إن مثل ما تكلمنا secure attachment أكون موجودة بس مو over attentive، أعطيه السبيس إنه يروح ويلعب ويكون صداقات وأكون موجودة مو all the time over. اوكي هذا بالسن الصغير. لما توصلي الى سن المراهقه being open ان الواحد يكون يعني يجاوب اسئله بوضوح ويعطيه مثلا سبيس، طريقه اللبس، طريقه يعني التصرفات طبعا within safety. تعطونا هالحريه انه يسال ويتكلم ويبحث. وايد لما سويت دراسات عن هالموضوع يقولون ان بعض الكلاينتس الانفورميشن عن لها الكونفيدنشال وبعضهم لا. فبالكويت شلون بالضبط عندكم انفورميشن عن هالدراسات؟
هو المفروض كونفيدنشال بس ممكن بصورة او باخرى تكون المعلومه موجوده مكانا ما مطلعينها او تطلع بالصدفه. انا بوضعي كنت بالغلط كانوا دازين اوراق جهه حكوميه وشفت الموضوع، فانت وحظك.
فشلون تعاملتي مع هذا الموضوع؟
قلت حكومتي وايد ارتاح ان اعرف الباب، يعني كان شوي صعب بس حتى يعني ما في شيء. ما ادري احنا الدنيا ماشيه، فما اقدر اقول لك والله ان هالحدث هالوقت خذ هالكثر وكل شيء مع بعضه ماشي يعني. فتعاملنا معاه زعل شوي بعدين تقبل الوضع.
الحمد لله. فيقول الريسيرش انه كثر ما يعرفون as much about their family يكون وايد اريح حق الطفل، انه ما يكون عايش بالغيب بالدار. يعرف حتى حق الميديكال records.
You can help us about this. She's saying, you want to say it in English?
Yes, of course. What I was saying was that it's really helpful to the kid, to the child, to know about their parents' history, their birth parents, and what's going on. Even from a medical point of view, I was reading about that. Like when they go to a hospital, يروحون المستشفى يقولوا لهم شنو الميديكال هيستوري مالكم. هذا شيء مهم. وإذا بيبون عيال شنو بالعائلة عندكم. it's crucial, isn't it?
It's crucial. Yeah.
Can you share your experience?
When I go to the doctors and they ask them my family medical history, I have to say to them I don't know because I'm adopted.
Yeah.
and these are the things that most people take for granted because they know their medical history, they know what their father or their mother suffered from, their grandparents. And when you're adopted and you don't know your medical history, you start to worry, is there, you know, cancer in the family?
Yeah.
Is there, you know, it's a frightening experience. So it's crucial to know.
It's crucial to know, and may I ask, do you have any children?
Yes, I do, yeah.
So if there is that link as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That history.
Yeah.
We need to know, نبي نعرف إحنا كhumans, we need to know where we come from.
How important is that?
It's extremely important.
Knowing where you came from.
Extremely important to know.
فجأة بدأ قصة مؤلمة إذا اعتداء أو شيء مؤلم إذا قصة الياهل.
Can you say that in English? She can answer you.
So what's the history or the story about the child abandonment or what led to is a painful one. Like we have mothers who have children who are out of incest or, you know, rape or, you know, maybe you're hiding that fact just to kind of protect the child. Again, there are some, I don't think every scenario needs to be said. I don't know. I mean, in the States, I met someone who was devastated when she found out her mother's an alcoholic and her father is in prison or something like that. Again, so when do you hide the story to protect the child?
Can we answer? Can we translate before you answer?
Yeah.
بس باختصار إنه
متى نخفي الحقيقة على الطفل لحمايته؟ إذا كان القصة مؤلمة.
قصة أهله يعني البيولوجيين.
وضعه مؤلم بحد ذاته فما نبي نزيد بألم أن القصة اللي تسببت بوضعه مؤلمة بعد.
Okay, you wanna go?
Okay, so personally, I believe that the child needs to know as early as possible that they're adopted. It's important for their sense of self-esteem. It's important for them to know that who they are and where they came from. I mean, from my own personal opinion and my own story is that my mother came from Kuwait. She travelled to London when she was pregnant with me and gave me up for adoption because she said that she'd married my father secretly and that she would be honour killing. It was honour killing if her father, my grandfather, found out she was pregnant with me and she'd married someone secretly. So when I grew up, so I was left in England and my mother came back to Kuwait, and I grew up in a small town in England, so I looked very different from the very beginning. So I knew I wasn't English, but my foster mother decided to lie to me and tell me that she was my mother. She pretended she was my mother, and that my father was foreign from the Middle East. So she led me to believe that I was half English. And then she did it because she was, like you said, she was frightened of telling me the truth because, firstly, she was frightened of telling me the truth because she thought that it was too dangerous for me to know the truth. She was worried for me. And secondly, she hid the truth from me because she was frightened that she would lose me because she was my mum. And she was frightened that I would go off and look for my mother and forget about her.
Did you feel that she was your mom?
No, I felt different. I felt like she wasn't really my mum. I can't explain it. I can't put my finger on it. It's very hard for you to understand it. But from a young age, I felt inside something's not quite right.
And when she hid the information, where did your mind go? What did you think happened? Was it wise to hide the information?
I remember asking her one day, I think I was about 9 or 10. I remember saying to her, "You're not my real mum, are you? You hid my real parents somewhere, didn't you?" And she said to me, "Don't be so silly, why are you saying that?" So I must have known inside.
You looked different.
But I couldn't express it because I was just a child.
Okay.
I think also like we have issues like culturally.
خلت أترجم اللي قالته. Okay. اللي قالته إن هي أمها كويتية ولدتها في بريطانيا وكانت متزوجة الأبو بالسر واضطرت تولدها في بريطانيا لأن لو اليد عرف بيذبح الأم دفاعا عن الشرف. خلتها في فوستر هوم، راحت فوستر هوم في لندن وكانت في بلدة في شمال إنجلترا شكلها غير. لأن هم كلهم بيض وشقر وهي شوي سمراء. بس أمها اللي رعتها كانت تقول لها أنا أمك وأبوك إيراني. تقول أتذكر عمري 9 سنين قلت لها أنت مو أمي، أنت خاشة أمي وأبوي مكان ثاني. صح ولا غلط؟ تقول لها لا أنت يعني ليش تقولين كذي كلام؟ لا بلا أنا أمك. عرفتي؟ go ahead. Sorry.
Could you continue your journey? إذا ما عندك مانع.
لا أكيد.
Could you continue your story? So what happened after? How did you find out about the Kuwaiti mom and?
So when I was just before I was 16, about 15, my mum decided to tell me that she wasn't my mum. That was it. She just said, I've got something to tell you. She was very upset. She was crying. And I thought, what's wrong, you know? And then she said, I've got something to tell you. I'm not your real mum. But she wouldn't tell me the story of who my real parents were. And so then I was taken to the court where I was officially adopted because I'd been fostered up to that time. And then the court told me who my real parents were, or my mother. And then I was given a piece of paper which said the story that my mum had come from Kuwait, and if her father found out, and he would kill her and he would kill me, and if her father didn't kill her and me, then her father's brothers would all kill me, like an honor killing. And she had to leave me. And when I read all of those things, and I didn't have a counsellor, I didn't have support, I didn't have anybody, I just read the papers, I was completely shocked and very upset and very hurt that she lied to me. So my relationship with her changed completely. I didn't trust her anymore. Whatever she said to me, I thought she was a liar, and I ran away from home because I was extremely unhappy that I'd been lied to all those years.
Can I stop you here? So أمها قالت لها لما صار عمرها 16 سنة صار لازم أحد يحتضنها لأن السيستم ما يخليها فوسترينج ل 16. فلما راحت تتبناها بالمحكمة عطوها الأوراق اللي فيها اسم أمها واسم الأبو، وقالوا لها إن السالفة سالفة فيها شرف، من كذي أمك اضطرت تخليك. فهي لأن أمها ما علمتها، تقول تغيرت علاقتها ويا أمها، صارت ما تثق في أمها، كانت مقتنعة إنه أي شيء تقول للأم بيطلع كذب، ووايد زعلت يعني تأثرت بالخداع اللي هي عاشته بها 16 سنة وتركت البيت. So how do you think what would have been easier if you knew earlier, or
If I'd known earlier,
you think you would have accepted it?
I would have accepted it. I would have of course I would have had a loss, because the loss is always there. You know you came from somewhere else and you feel a loss that you can't be with your natural family. So the loss would never go away, but at least it would have been easier for me to deal with had I always known. And if she'd been supportive and said, this is your story, I know it's an awful thing. You can't tell a small child you're going to be killed. But you can say it in such a way that makes more sense, and then when the child becomes older, at least they know they're adopted, and then you can go into the details as they get older. If they want to search as well, you can support them and say, I'll be with you, I understand it's important for you to know your medical history, to know, because whoever you're adopted by, and I know with my case it was extreme because I was living with English people, so I don't look like English people. But even if you've adopted a child, they always, even my friends who've been adopted in England, these are English people who've been adopted by English families, they've always said to me, I looked different. Like I had blue eyes, they had green eyes. I was tall, they were short. I had brown hair, they had blonde hair. You feel a sense of looking different, feeling different. And when it's not acknowledged and nobody talks about it, it makes you feel ashamed of who you are. and afraid to ask.
اوكي فيعني لو قايلت لها تقول امها من مبكر كان هم ساعدتها تتأقلم مع الوضع، كان صار اخف وصار اسهل عليها من لما عرفت وهي كبيره. تقول مو الا تقول لي كل التفاصيل، مثلا انه يمكن يذبحونك، يمكن امك تنقتل، بس تبدي معي خطوه خطوه. وقالت لها حتى في بريطانيا هي ربعها السبورت جروب الانجليز اللي متبنينهم انجليز هم حسوا بالفرق. مثلا هي تصير الانجليزيه عيونها زرق واللي متبنينها عيونها خضر، او الشعر درجه اللون غير، يحسون اكو غير. فتقول هو احسن لنا الواحد يعرف مبكر ويساعدون السبورت. انا احتاج السبورت ان اتاقلم مع الوضع. تقول اللوس موجود، الفقد موجود، والهجر والالم اللي تحسه موجود ما يروح، بس على الاقل تساعدني، هي امي.
I have two questions then. Was your mother loving to start with, the foster mother? And the second question did she have any support for her?
No.
Did she have anyone who could give her an advice? Or was she just doing what she thought is best on her own, and that no one really guided her decisions? يعني قاعد أسألها هل كانت أمك محبة؟ ثاني شيء هل كان في أحد ينصحها؟ ولا هي بروحها؟ لأن يعني في مثلا الجيل اللي قبلنا كان كل واحد يسوي اللي هو يعتقد أنه هو صح، لأن ما كان في دعم ولا كان في يعني المساعدة.
Well, firstly, the adoption agency said to her, I shouldn't know. There was a lot of secrecy around the adoption agency. They didn't want her to have much access, or me to have access to my file. So she took that to mean, okay, so they don't want me to tell her much. They did say from a very young age, you should tell Debbie she's adopted, she's not your daughter. But they said she shouldn't know too much information, it won't be very good. So she thought she was doing the best thing for her, I think. And she didn't have any support, no. She didn't have the right support. But we are talking, this was many years ago. I appreciate that, and things have changed now. But no, and also, no, she wasn't a very loving mother. She had a sense of loss in her life because she could never have a child of her own. And she had never fully dealt with the loss of not being able to conceive her own child. And I think she thought by taking me, I would be that baby she'd never been able to have. But she didn't think that baby came from somewhere else. She thought she could make
You want to translate that?
the baby her own.
اوكي. اول شيء قالت انه ما كان اكو دعم حق الام، وطبعا الام كان المؤسسه اللي ساهمت باحتضانها قالت لهم ان لا تقولي لها قصتها، واحنا ترى في امهات نفس الشيء يقولون لا تقول لهم قصتهم، ولكن قالوا لها قولي لها انها محتضنه، فهي هذا الجزء اللي الام سوته. والام هل الام كانت محبه؟ لا، لان الام ما تغلبت على فكره انها ما قدرت تنجب، فهي عباره انها بتجيب يا بتسدها النقص، لكن ما تعاملت مع مشاعرها ان هي والله ما تقدر تجيب يا ما برت من الموضوع هذا، وكانت تستخدم البنت كتسد حاجه حقها هي بالاساس، عشان كذي كانت تستصعب تقول لها ان هي مو امها. صح ولا؟
صح. That's good. Okay. سؤال.
لما عرفت القصة يعني عرفت حقيقتها، عرفت ما دورت امها كثير.
Okay.
شلون كان الوضع عليهم؟
So now you knew your story. Did you look for your Kuwaiti mom? That's a question from there.
That's the first thing I did.
أول شيء سويته دورت أمها. عندك سؤال؟
عندنا شنو كان شعورها؟
How did you feel? شعورها على شنو؟
لا يعني هل كانت هي متشوقة انها تعرفها وتسمع منها، او انه كان بس مجرد معرفة؟
Okay. Why did you look for your mom? Were you curious or you wanted to hear something from her specifically?
I wanted to know why she left me. I wanted to know who I was, where I came from, who I looked like.
One by one. تبي تعرف ليش تركتها؟ منو هي؟ من تشبه؟ هويتها. تبي تعرف منو هي بالضبط.
هل هذا اشبع يعني اشبع العاطفة اللي فيها وريحها، ولا
عاطفة ولا فضول؟ هذا مو عاطفة.
لا يعني ظلت طول السنين تفكر بنفس الموضوع، ولا خلاص لما عرفت الوضع؟
Okay, when you knew, did you close the door or something else? I mean, you knew now who you were. What happened next? Was that enough? Were you satisfied or you needed more?
No, that's I didn't know who I was. I knew that my parents, like my mother was Kuwaiti, but that wasn't telling me who I was. I had to go and
So
find
the
for
name
myself.
is not enough.
No.
Okay, عرفت إن اسم أمها بس هذا مو كافي. تبي تعرفها، تبي تشوفها، تبي تشوف أهلها، تبي تشوف هي منو. الحين هي صار لها أسبوع هني. حتى حركاتها تقول أبي أشوف شنو الحركات هذه من وين أنا جايبتهم.
بس هي ميتة مو؟
Ask her.
Is your mom alive?
No, she's dead now.
So how you are going to know all those things?
Because I've already met her. I met
You
her.
already met her before?
I found her, yeah.
Before she
Long ago.
Yeah, I found her, yeah.
How old were you?
24. So I found her. It took me 8 years, long time, long journey, many people trying to stop me. I mean, my first place I went to was the Kuwaiti embassy, and they told me, no, you shouldn't look for her, you'll cause problem for her. She may be married now, her husband might not know about you. You know, it's better you go away and forget. So that hurt me, but I persisted, and then then the Iraq invaded Kuwait, and I got very upset watching the news and thinking she's going to be killed, and I haven't found her yet. But I didn't know how to get into the country, because then you couldn't just come like you can now. You needed a sponsor to get to Kuwait. And then a friend who was also adopted in England got a job in Kuwait. So I said to her, when you go to Kuwait, can you please try and find my mother for me? So I gave her a name. And when she came back to England, she said, I've met one of your relatives, and I had the phone number. Now I knew that it said about honor killing, so I knew that I had to be careful, and there was always the fear in me that, because I'd heard this story of honor killing, that someone was going to kill me. So I had this, because nobody had ever explained to me properly, so I had this fear in my head that people were going to kill me, and people were going to kill her, and maybe she would reject me and not want to see me. So I called this person who was a cousin, and I said, hello, I'm an old friend from England. She came 24 years ago. She was a friend of mine. I made up a story. And do you know her? And then I didn't know how it works, like in Kuwaiti society, but from one cousin, he gave me another number of another cousin. I had to ring all these people. And I remember feeling so excited because I was talking to my blood relatives, but at the same time pain because I couldn't tell them who I was. Anyway, the last cousin I spoke to, she said, give me your number and I'll see what I can find out for you. And then that same night my mother called me, and she said, I asked her questions first, and she said, who are you, who are you, who are you? She kept saying, who are you? And then I said, I'm your daughter. And then she said, I know, I just needed to hear you say that to me. And she was very happy for me to see her.
أترجم؟
لا لما عرفت الأم وكلمتها، هل هي الحين سامحت أمها؟
Okay, I'm going to ask you something. I need just a brief, your life or the way you were before finding your mom and after finding your mom.
Oh, okay. So before I found my mom, I felt confused, I felt rootless, I felt I don't know who I am, I don't know where I come from, who am I? And when I met my mom, I suddenly could see myself in somebody else, and I said, oh yeah, I look a little bit like this person, and she was able to tell me about a little bit about my family history, and suddenly I felt like, before I was floating above the ground, and then when I found her, my feet were on the ground, if that makes sense.
That's the expression everybody use, all adoptees use that. قبل لا تشوف أمها حست إن هي مثل الريشة طايرة وما لها روت وما تدري هي منو. لما لقت أمها حست كذي ثبتت، شافت وجه يشبه وجهها، شافت ناس تعرفهم، شافت فرق عليها وايد.
بس مو كل طفل محتضن راح يلقى أمه.
مو كيفك. والله العظيم مو كل طفل محتضن بيلاقي أمه، مو كيفك. ايش دراك ما تدرين. You open the doors وكيفها هم يقررون. So did you ask your mom what happened?
Yeah,
hold on.
I just want to comment. I mean, I think the most important thing بالعربي إن إحنا ما نحس وجود الأم الثانية راح ينقص من أهميتنا أو قيمتنا، وما نخاف من الأم الثانية.
الكاميرا اسمك
احنا بالاخير اول وثاني واخذين بالعالم. واحنا كان لنا رساله وكان لنا دور واحترمنا يبزدنا ويبزد عيالنا كلهم. فالخوف هذا انك تشوف الام ممكن يميل لها مفروض. انا اشوف واحد بامريكا عرف امه بعد 40 سنه، راح بكل كيانه صوب الام الجديده اللي تو لقاها، وهي كل عيد ميلاد الدوره ونوعا ما كانه ريال اخذ مره مثل جديده ومثل قديمه. نفس الشيء كان ناسي الام اللي كانت تربيه وتطلع فيها عيون، بس شنو؟ في الاخير يعني رد حق امه الثانيه، فما نقدر نقرر ايش راح يصير ولا شو العلاقه بتصير مع الام البيولوجيه، بس لازم ما يكون في تهديد علينا او خوف من الام البيولوجيه او خوف ان الياهل يلاقي ام البيولوجيه. يعني
ممكن القصه لها نفس النهايه.
صح
يعني هذا اللي
هذا بالدنيا كلها إيمان. Okay, let's go back to this. We're not going to argue this point. Okay, did you ask her? She said not all stories have the same ending. That's obvious.
No, not all
Okay.
stories have the same ending.
So, what was your question, Safa? Did you ask her what happened? صح? Did she tell you what happened? That was her question.
Okay, so I asked her what happened, and she told me, but she was very ashamed and embarrassed to say a lot of things because she is a Muslim woman and she was married by this time and she had children, and it was very difficult to talk to her about what happened. So I still to this day don't know the complete story.
But she wrote it in a letter. I think that's her way of...
Yeah, she did. Yeah, because she was too. She did write one letter to me, and in the letter she explained some of the story about her and my father. She was in love with him, and her father would never have allowed the marriage to happen, because they were different people. I think different class as well.
Yeah.
But she said in the letter, I was ashamed to tell you to your face. So I'm writing it in a letter.
And did you meet your father, or there's no need for him?
No.
No search for him, or no desire to know him? Or
There is a desire to find out who he is, yes, and to meet him if possible. And I've been trying, but since her death, I've been trying to introduce myself to her relatives, and even while I was here, trying to do the same thing now. But nobody really wants to talk about it. Because it's a shameful thing. It's a family secret, and they don't like secrets coming out because it affects reputation. And I find that hard to understand because I'm the result of that secret, and I'm a human being, and I was innocent. I was just born out of this situation, and I feel it's my right to know. And I said to them, it's not like I'm going to suddenly knock on his door and say, I'm your daughter, I'm coming home. It's not like that. Even when I found my mother, I knew I could never get her back as my mother because I'd spent 24 years away from her and she'd had her own life. So we were strangers when we met each other. And I know that many adoptive parents are afraid of their children looking for their biological family because they think they'll reject them and go to their biological. But many of them don't do that. They just want to know who they are, who they look like, their family medical history and their background.
Okay, so basically أكثر شيء أذاها بالبحث إن القصة صارت يعني زواج كان سري أو عرفي، والأهل الأم مو راضين يتكلمون لأن هذا شيء يفشل أو عيب أو إنه شيء يعني فضيحة بالمجتمع. فتقول أنا مالي ذنب باللي صار حتى لو أنا نتيجة هالفضيحة، بس لا يعاملوني إن كنا أنا. تقول هاي أكثر شيء أذاها، تقول أنا مالي ذنب باللي صار، ولي حق أعرف منو أهلي ولي حق أعرف من أمي ومن أبوي وأعرفهم زيادة. تقول أنا أفهم إن أكثر الأمهات المحتضنين خايفين إن عيالهم إذا دوروا الأم أو أهلهم بيولوجيين يروحون عنهم، بس أغلب القصص ما يروحون. كثر ما أنت صرتي يعني متعاونة وسبورتيف مع الطفل ما راح يروح يخليك. Questions? يلا.
I have two questions. The first question, like you said in the beginning, like you feel not the love because like you feel like there is secret. That's why you don't like you feel like 100% يعني the love, even if not, and you have like doubt like she's not your mother, but that's why you don't love her that much that she kept a secret or there's a secret. And the second question, during the search after you know, do you feel that stop your life, or like if you want to do something like oh no I need to do that first, or no you continue your life and keep searching? You understand me? Like for example my daughter later on if she want to search, like is that like يعني فهمت قصدي؟ إن راح توقف حياتها
Is it going to stop your life while you were searching, did that make everything go on hold?
Yeah,
that you
one,
wanted to pursue in your life? Or did you pursue your life and search at the same time?
Like, keep it on the side, if not like.
You pursue your life because you have no choice, you have to carry on living. But in many ways, you don't have a fulfilled life because you believe that you're a second-class citizen, and you believe that you can't achieve in life because this thing is holding you back in your mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But did you feel after you got the results that you were looking for, do you feel that you could continue life easily?
After I found my mother, my life became easier, yes. And I felt more content and happy in who I was. And I became happier and my life got easier, yeah. But while I was searching, it was very hard.
Did it affect your education or?
While I was searching?
Yeah?
Yeah. Before I met my mother, I failed at school, I failed lots of exams. After I found my mother, I went back to my education and I passed the exams that I failed before.
For example, if your mother, like the foster mother, was so supportive for you, do you feel that can help?
Of course, yeah. I'll be totally honest with you. Because she lied to me, from the moment I found out the truth when I was 16 years old, which was a very bad age because I was a teenager, it destroyed my relationship with her. And my relationship has never been close since.
Did you continue to live with her?
No, I ran away from home. I didn't go back. I have seen her. I do still see her. She's very old now. She's very weak. She's and I do go back to see her. And I don't know. Why do I do it? As a sense of duty, as a sense of kindness. I feel sorry for her. And I've tried to forgive her because I know that she did what she thought was best. And feeling anger was destroying me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Questions. Yeah. Did you forgive your birth mom for what happened?
Yeah.
Good.
بعد.
I have a question. What type of support, let's say your mother was supportive and she didn't lie to you, how could if she helped you look for your original mother? Like, what type of support would I give my daughter if she wants to look for her biological mother?
She could have supported me and said, I know this is really important to you and we're going to find the answers together and I'm with you every step of the way. So I didn't have to go places by myself. Because some adoptive people in England and America, their adoptive parents go with them when they meet biological family and they help them. There's a lot of those types of families that do that for their children.
So it would help to be there with the...
Definitely, yeah. Your child will thank you for that.
And you don't think we should force it upon them as well?
No, only if they want to. If they show it. They've got to be able to feel safe to share their feelings with you. Because many adopted people feel too ashamed to say anything and too afraid to say anything because they're frightened they might feel like they're rejecting their adopted parents. They're too afraid. I know adopted people, for example, friends of mine, who waited years and years and years until their adopted parents died. And then they go looking. Because they're too scared, they don't want to hurt their parents.
At 16, did you feel anger, and who was it at your foster mother or your biological parents?
All three.
Was it a destructive force?
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah, it was. All three. I was angry at my mother, my birth mother. I was angry at my mother, and I was angry. I didn't feel as though I felt I was lovable or worthy. I felt shame about myself.
How do we deal with this if it comes?
Shame?
The anger. How do we deal with it if it comes in our children?
I would have to say, first of all, be okay to accept it without trying to make it better, without trying to retaliate. Just take it. And if it gets really bad and the child starts acting out at school and with their friends, I would say seek support. But definitely don't react to it. The child or the person needs to express it.
اوكي يعني الطفل بالعربي لازم يعبر صح؟
يعبر الغضب، يعبر بالألم اللي هو فيه، يتكلم كل اللي بقلبه، وساعات بس يحتاج ان احد يستمع له ويقول له انا موجود وانا مستمع.
اوكي.
طبعا قبل اللي قالته ديبي مهم. قالت ان وقت اللي عرفت ان هي وضعها كانت غضبانه من نفسها، غضبانه من امها، غضبانه من اهلها البيولوجيين، والغضب هذا كان مدمر. In what way it was destructive? Like your grades? Did you do self-harm? What did it lead to? What would it, in your opinion?
You're a doctor, you can get this, but not everybody does.
Okay. So I mean, how do we stop it? Like, how do we absorb it? And okay, يعبر وكل شيء، بس how do I stop it?
What can we do? شنو اللي نقدر نسويه عشان السلف destructive period هذه ما تصير؟ أو شلون نطلعهم منها؟ I asked you that question this morning. What can you do to avoid that self-destructive period, or help the person, the adoptee, pass through it?
They need to feel listened to. I think.
لازم نسمع لهم. Next.
They need to feel valued.
يحسون لهم قيمة. أنتوا عارفين عن شنو إحنا قاعد نتكلم مو؟ Okay.
I'm just gonna put one note out there.
Go ahead.
Sometimes they just have to go through that period.
Yes.
I agree.
You know, you just have to go through it.
Yeah.
And
It's part of the process.
Exactly. So it's part of the process that you have to go through. Whether adopted or not, you have to go through that. It's just what's the end result is what the parents, I think, are worried about.
But Abdullah, that was you, right? So if they have to go through it, but being a mother, seeing my child go through that, I cannot sit and just watch and wait for him to pass through it.
No,
there has to be something to, I don't know, pull him back, if I can call it.
Give him support. I mean, he has to talk, and then he has to...
That's the self-destructive period.
Yeah, I mean, he has to find people similar to him. I mean, this is support group. That's what we are always saying. These kids, I mean, they have to sit together and talk their pain, because they are the only people.
Okay, so support group is a way.
Yeah,
okay.
The only way they can.
فيحتاج ناس مثله ويحتاج نسمع له.
And also, he needs the love from. I mean, you just hold him. I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, you just give him the love. That's it. Yes.
And when there are warning signs, seek
help.
help.
Therapy صح.
Like when you have self-harm, when they have suicidal tendencies, things like that, that's when you know that you need to seek help. And it can be a lot to take on by yourself.
I have a question. I just wanted to ask, did you seek therapy? If you did, when did you decide to start doing therapy, and how did you benefit from it? And do you think that it's something that, you know, all children that are looking for their identity should go through? Because I think the parents have a role, but there are also limits to what the parents could do. A psychologist has a role, but there are limits to what a psychologist could do. So is that something you think that all adopted children should go through? And
I think therapy is important, yes. I mean, for many people, my generation of adopted people, we didn't have the access to therapy back then. And many of us are in therapy as adults now, even. To work through the feelings that we had as children. But certainly for me, the first major breakthrough in terms of therapy was in my early 20s, I think I was 22, and I went to the post-adoption centre, which they had in London, and I sought therapy with a counsellor there. And from there I went to a support group meeting with other adopted people, all the same age as me, and that was really helpful. To know I wasn't alone was extremely helpful.
فيعني أهم جزء كان العلاج لما شافت ناس مثلها الأدوبتيز.
And this is actually what Zaina helped me with 2 years ago, was it, Zaina?
Yeah, I think so.
2 years almost.
Almost.
Because before that in Kuwait, if you were adopted, they would not let you know anybody else who's adopted or anybody else who's in the same situation. So you couldn't.
Still nobody giving me any names or
So it helps big time.
Okay.
Debbie, do you know sometimes I want to forget, actually we do forget most of the times that our children are adopted. And there are times they want to forget also. So I don't know, what if you could give us just one advice, just be honest, make them feel the love, make them feel valuable.
That's a good one.
But you know, I think he's a piece of my heart, he's my soul. I don't know what is the difference between, I cannot see that there's another parent, even though I accept it, I encourage him to think about it. I don't know.
He's always going to be your son.
Yes, true.
You're always going to be his mother. No one is going to replace that bond between you. No one. That's whoever goes in search. And some people don't, in all fairness. It's not every single adopted person will want to search. But if they do, it's not because the relationship with you is lacking. It's not. It's because they just need to know where they came from. That's all.
فلما يدور مو لأن علاقته ما عادش فيها مشكلة، بس لأنه يبي يعرف هو شنو أصوله، وماكو شيء يبدل علاقة الأم بالولد أو البنت. فارتاحوا يعني.
What would soothe the anger? What do you think, looking back, what do you think would calm down all the anger you felt?
Towards the birth parents?
With everyone, towards yourself mainly, because I don't want my child to suffer, and I don't want him to harm himself in any way. So what do you think would would have toned it down, that anger? Because it must be very intense. It must have been very intense.
It is intense, and like he was saying, it's a process that sometimes is inevitable that you have to go through. But I think that, for example, you're here tonight at this meeting. My mother never understood this kind of thing. So that in itself, you understanding where he comes from, what the possibility may be of him. He may not go through it, but at least you're aware of it. You're educated enough to know now for the signs. And I think that that's important to learn, to read as much as you can about adopted people, children. Read everything you can and just be there for him in every single way. I think that's the most important thing.
Do you think if your mother was there for you, it would have calmed things down for you?
Yeah. I felt self-destructive and low self-esteem and low self-worth because my adopted mother was not a person who was supportive, and she wouldn't talk to me. And all I wanted was somebody to talk to me, to say, this is how it is. And even if she didn't know much information herself, for example, she could say, okay, I don't know that much, but let's find out together. I'm here with you. Because you feel so incredibly lonely and so frightened when you're going through those emotions. You always feel, what's wrong with me that I was left? What did I do wrong that I was left? This is the one theme, recurrent theme in my life. What's wrong with me? And it affects every single relationship you have in your life because you don't value yourself.
It makes me think of nature versus nurture. It makes me think of how the past is very much alive in the present. And that's the focus of the work that we do. We work with the past. And until we can make peace with it, we can't move forward.
Okay, can you hold? طبعا help me out. أنتي سؤالك شنو كان؟ بالعربي. إيه.
أول سؤال قلت لها شلون نمتص الغضب؟ وأهم شيء أنا عندي طبعا إن هي قالت الغضب كان إنه ما يدمر نفسه. تخافين يدمر نفسه. فقالت ان احد يسمع لي، ان احد يطمني ان الاختلاف هذا مقبول، ان انا ما فيني عيب، ان انا ما تركت لعيب فيني. هذا الكلام كان وايد مهم عشان يخفف من الغضب اللي كنت احسه. صح في شيء كنت نسيته؟
اي صح، هذا اهم شيء.
وفنجر كانت ترجمه كلام.
اي
ان الماضي يعيش معانا في الواقع الحين، واذا احنا ما نسلم يصير بيننا سلام بيننا وبين ماضينا ما راح نقدر إن we move forward ونتقبل حياتنا الحين والمستقبل.
دكتورة أجل، هل التنويم المغناطيسي يساعد الشخص إنه هو فعلا يمسح الغضب اللي كان فيه من قبل، أو البحث اللي هو شاغل نفسه فيه، وإحساس يعطيه دفعة للأمام إنه يعيش حياة أفضل؟
التنويم المغناطيسي مو من تخصصي، بس اللي أنا أشوفه إذا الشخص ما يقدر يسوي كونكشن ويعيش هالألم مع سبورت واللي صار فيه، وايد صعب عليه إنه يقدر إنه ينمو فورورد.
يعني هل أنتم تنصحون ولا ما تنصحون؟
أنا أنصح، سؤال شوية صعب، رئيسي يسوي تنويم مغناطيسي، بس على شخصيتي أنا أنصح الشخص يروح حق النفس إرشادي أول بدل ما يجرب التنويم.
بس وايد ناس من يروحون ويبدون ينقون في الماضي يتغيرون يستخفون بصراحة لفترة معينة، يصيرون خارج نطاق السيطرة. وبعدين يعني شنو الهدف ان الواحد يرجع الى شيء خلاص تعايش معاه، كان في لحظه مؤلمه تعايش معاها وعداها، ليش ارد انقب عنها واقعد احفر ويعني طالما تعايش معها وقدر يكمل حياته ويوصل لمرحله جديده، ليش ارد وانقب وبعدين الريال يستخف علينا ولا المراه ولا الياهل ولا اللي هو.
بس اذا هو جاي علاج في شيء صاير صح؟ على ما الناس يوصلون لنا ويدفعون المبلغ اللي حق الثيرابي في شيء صاير، واحنا بالثيرابي ما ننبش نروح وين الشخص يبي يروح، لان اذا نبشنا هذا يصير عاد عكس علينا يعني، لان بعد تفتحين ملفات. وايد من الاوقات نقول لهم ان العلاج النفسي قد يحس الشخص اسوأ قبل ما انه يتحسن، وكثر ما نقدر مع انفولفمنت مع الاهل نقلل انه يستخف ولا لا.
يعني وفي مشكلة كبيرة فجر، كل من قاعد يسوي كل شيء. طبيب نفسي غير مؤهل يكون مرشد نفسي. صح. السايكايتري مو سايكولوجي، لكن وايد ناس قاعد يتقمصون دور الثيرابيست ويودون الأوادم قاعد نشوفه. صح. فيعني احنا مثلا تقولين انت روحوا دوروا سبورت، انا كهذا ما اثق بصراحة وايد ناس، ما اعرف منو عنده الاكسبرتيز. قلة اللي ادري انت يعني مش اشكرك انك قلتي توني بادي اتعرف على الموضوع، اذا توني منكم قاعده صدق، فما ابي انا احد اللي يفتي علي بالفاضي والمليان، واحنا شفنا ناس يعني يقرا لك كلمتين يسمعها، انا ما ابي احد يقعد يتدرب، ما ابي احد يتعلم التحصون على راس القرعان بالكويتي. زين ابي اللي يعطيني يكون واثق من معلومته ولا يقعد يرب فيني، صح، لانه ممكن يضر، لان رايه قد يكون غلط. صح. اوكي. فيعني من المتخصصين بالكويت بهالشيء؟ احنا عرفنا قله، منو برايك اللي شلون نعرف ان هذا كمرشد نفسي مؤهل مثلا؟ حتى لو بيبحث هذا بس انه نوعا ما مؤهل يعرف انه ما يضيع، ما يأذي، ما يسبب ضرر يعني.
هذا هو اول شيء لازم تروحين عند سنترز مخصصين، يعني مو الا necessarily بالادوبشن، لان كل شخص يعتبر شخص مع ماضيه ادوبتد مو ادوبتد، كل واحد فيه الم، وعندنا احنا بعد وايد صدمات غير الادوبشن اللي بعيد الشر، يعني ريب فيكتيمز، وعندنا وايد اشياء نستخدمها. فانا ما احتاج اني اكون متخصصه بشيء واحد، احتاج اني اعرف شلون افهم هالشخص واتعامل معاه بطريقه اثيكل، ما انبش، ما اسوي شيء راح يضر هالشخص، ما اعطيه، لازم اعطيه السبورت انه حتى وهو طالع يفيل سيف. فكأدوبشن أنا صراحة من خبرتي في العمل وفي السوق ما أعرف أحد يسوي أدوبشن as a speciality. ما أجد أحد ثاني منكم يقدر يعطيني هالمعلومة، بس كسبيشاليتي مو موجودة.
واحنا نشوف مثلا اللي يكون تخصص كباري على ساعتي في وايد خطوط بالخاص خاصة، وايد خطوط وايد حدود لا تحترم.
صح، ولازم يقعدوا معاه. يعني انا يجوني كلاينتس 15 16 حتى واحده يعني از اولدست 30 ابوها وياها بالبدايه، يبون يعرفون منو قاعد يتعامل مع اطفالهم، تقعدين معه تحسين مرتاحه، تحسين ان الشخص متمكن، اوكي اسلم ماي كيد هو اي لاف سو ماتش. فوايد مهم انك بعد تقرين عنهم. سنتر مثل السور يعني شهادتي مجروحه، اي ثينك اتس اكسلنت. عندك كويت كونسلنج سنتر اللي وايد شطار، وعندك فوزية السلطان.
وفجر احيانا الواحد لما يودي وايد ولده او بنته او هذا ثيرابيست يصير الياهل يستسهل ان اي شيء عنده يقول حق الثيرابيست، فيصير انه يستصعب انه يقول حق الام.
هو لازم يكون عنده خصوصيته. الخصوصيه، الثيرابيست يعطي خصوصيه this is your space، المكان اللي انت تلعب فيه، نحط لك الباوندري، نحط لك مكان تحس انت سيف، بحيث انك لما تتعامل مع الام تشوف الام كانسانه اخرى تحبها. وايد من الاوقات لما يصير تروما ويصير اشياء يصير نوعا ما من الفيوجن، فلازم الطفل يعرف ان امي احبها، امي مو بس تلبي محتاجاتي ولا اشياء كذي، she's a separate person I love her.
شلون تصير الفيوجن؟
مثلا وايد اوقات اذا يصير مثلا من الام a lot of love، ما تبي تخلي طفلها، ما تعطي privacy خصوصيه، شيء وايد مهم بالنسبه للطفل، تبي ما تخلي انه يكون عقله بروحه انه ياخذ own way of thinking، يصير نوعا ما من الفيوجن، الطفل ما يعرف منو هو، ما يعرف انا تفكيري كذي شلون انا اداري اموري بنفسي، ففي دينجر. فلما يكون مع الثيرابيست يراويه healthy ways انه شلون يقدر يتعامل ويكون معتمد على نفسه، وما راح يخش عن الام، لانه وايد من الكلاينتس اللي يجوني بالبدايه عندهم identity issues، يجون معي بالسيشن نتكلم في الموضوع، يقولون انا صدق ابي اقول حق امي الموضوع، انا صدق ابي اشارك بهذا الموضوع. فساعات الثيرابي يعطيه الدافع انه اتس سيف، واحتمال انه your mom is gonna be safe too. فهذا هو.
دكتورة، هل يعني المفروض ان الام والولد يلحق الاخصائيه؟
حق الام والولد يعتمد السن، بس انا اقول انه يجون حتى ك30 واب يجون علشان ياخذون حس مع الثيرابيست. السيشن اصلا مفروض تصير بين انا والكلاينت مالي، بس اذا الاهل يبون يقابلوني ما عندي طبعا هذا شيء اقول اوكي، لان حتى الطفل يحس انه امان ان ابوه وياه امه وياه، بس السيشن نفسها الاشياء الخاصه بتكون بيني وبين الثاني.
اي سن ممكن تخلي الطفل تودينا للطبيب؟
وايد يجون صغار، اكو بلاي ثيرابيست حتى يستخدمون اللعب كوسيله من الكوميونيكيشن. اكو طبعا لازم تروحون تخصص واحد اطفال up to maybe 12 13، وبعدين عندك تخصص الادolescent يكون من 13 الى 18، وبعدين العيادات الثانيه بس للكبار.
اي لان في مثلا المشاكل الاسريه تلاقي الطفل متاثر والطفل غير متاثر.
صح.
الطفل المتاثر وبعض الناس ينصحون تودينا حق الاخصائي. يعني مثلا عارفين مشاكل الاسره، الاب والام مثلا، طلاق، الزواج، الزوجه الثانيه، الطفل هذا من اي مرحله اوديه؟
هذا سؤال جيد صراحه. انا اعتقد ان اللي يقدر يرسم ويلعب من هذا السن يقدر يصير في نوع ما من الكوميونيكيشن، وهم حتى من سن البيبيز يقدرون يراقبونهم ويشوفون ان اكو شيء مو اوكي مع هالبيبي. بس كثيرابي انا احس ان نقدر نسويه من السن اللي يحبي ويلعب ويميز ويرسم. كنت اشتغل مع اطفال باسكتلندا كان الرسم وايد مهم بالنسبه لهم، كل احلامهم افكارهم، حتى بعض الاوقات تطلع اشياء وايد غريبه. فمن هذا الوقت.
Excuse me دكتورة، من موضوع early childhood اللي انا اشتغلت فيها تقريبا 7 سنين مع الحضانات ومع psychologists and everything. بس عشان اجاوب عليك بهذا الشيء، بالكويت يعني في وايد limits بالذات مرحلة 3 years 4 years to find them. اغلب الوقت لما احنا نكتشف يعني كمدرس داخل الصف بالكيندرغارتن يعطونا احنا reports بالكامل من السورس سنتر انه we have to fill them out as teachers and everything for that. فان a child psychologist and psychologists for adoption and children under 5 years old is very difficult to get here in this country.
I never knew that.
Even when it comes to special needs children under 5 years old. So this is lacking in Kuwait completely.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to get a help for a child under 5 years old in Kuwait.
Let me correct you, Abdullah. usually they do not label a child as a special needs child if he's under 5.
Exactly.
It has to be between 7 and above.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yes, that's why even with the children.
That's why you
with
find it
issues,
hard.
Which I had in my own classroom, not an adopted child, a regular child whose behavior was completely different, which I detected, but I said I'm not a psychologist. And when the parents went to seek for help, and we, as the schools, we sought for help, they ended up giving us as the teachers all the reports to fill. So it's really hard at Kuwait to find something for children.
It is very hard.
Especially for that age.
That is very true.
Adopted or not.
Yeah, it's very true.
دكتورة على طاري إن الأطفال الصغار أنا كنت أحلل شخصية ولدي خلال الرسومات لأنه يروح المدرسة زين كان مدرسة خاصة فكانوا يشتكون المدرسين إن هو الصفحة اللي المفروض يتكلم فيها الصفحة المقابل اللي دائما تكون فاضية زين يرسم فيها فكانوا يشتكون قلت لهم خلوه بالعكس انا قاعد يساعدني اني انا احلل شخصيته قاعده افهم هو شنو قاعد يحس فيه فيقول هو مو مركز قلت لهم لا يركز خلوه يحب الماده خلوه يحبكم لكن هذا قاعد يساعدني انا افهم ولدي طبعا انا متى اكتسبت الخبره هذه مالت تحليل الشخصيات الا لما دخلت دوره تحليل الرسومات تحليل الخط وايد ساعدني بالرغم من هو صغير الرسمات كانت معبره عن ما في داخله صح لغايه ما كبر زين صار يخش الرسمات لانه خلاص عرف اني انا قاعد احلل شخصيته من خلال هذه الرسمات من خلال الخط اي ساعات يكون عنده فضول يما حللي لي توقيعي لما اي بتكلم بس خلاص ياخذ ورقه ويمشي ما يبيني اعرف شنو اللي قاعد يفكر فيه يعني انا بالنسبه لي انصح الجميع ان هم فعلا يدخلون هذه الدورات اللي ما في داعي الولد يتكلم او البنت ويعبروك على ما في داخلهم لان الرسومات والخط اكبر دليل على انهم شنو قاعد يحسون فيه صح فما ادري هل انت فعلا توافقين بهذا الراي؟
وايد اوافق بهذا الراي من شغلي مع الاطفال لما كنت باسكتلندا كانوا يرسمون اشياء وايد صعبه صارت لهم يعني حتى احنا كنا نروح البيرنت تيتشنج بالمدرسه كنا نشوف يعني رسماتهم بحيث انه يعني صارت لهم كوارث في البيت وعندنا قصص هني بالكويت مثلا في طلاق كان يرسم امه وابوه ويرسم اسود على وجه ابوه انه مو موجود النور فالاطفال يستوعبون اكثر من ما احنا نعتقد وصدق انه يبين بالرسم وايد يبين وحتى بالالعاب طريقه يصيرون اجريسيف ولا لا ولا يسمعون ولا ساعات منهم ما يسمعون الكلام يركضون هايبر ففي وايد مؤشرات انها تساعدنا ان نعرف ان في شيء يعني مو ماشي اوكي.
نعم. فرط الحركه او النشاط الزايد لا علاقه بالاحتضان؟
والله صراحه ما ادري اكون واقعيه وياك انا اعرف انه قريت البحوث اللي قريتها ان ساعات الناس المحتضنين في عندهم ADHD اكثر هذا الشيء اللي قريته بس ما اعرف انا الاشياء
نسبه كبيره يعني عندهم
والله ما كان اكثر بس قالوا انه في لينك مكتوب انه يعني في لينك في علاقه في الموضوع مو حاطين البرسنتج.
هل كل طفل يحتاج طبيب ولا بس اللي نشوف فيه ثاني يعني مثلا اوكي درع الوضع يسمع هل لازم؟
لا مو لازم لما تلاحظين ان التصرفات وايد قام يتعب بالمدرسه ولا قاعد ياثر في البيت he feels upset isolated بعيد منعزل لما تلاحظين ان في شيء انت بنفسك كأم راح تعرفين انه شيء مو اوكي حس
زي مثلا يعني هي عمرها اسمع عليه 5 سنين بس مهما اقول مهما هذا احس ما مو راضي يعني هل هي مرات متقبلها هي لانها صغيره ومفانه يعني 4-5 سنين عشان هي 5 سنين
اي
فهل تحتاج طبيب انه ممكن
شنو تقولين لها عفوا يعني بس بالبيت
ستوريز واقول لها مثلا قصتك كذي بس مو على بالي كل يعني وايد زينه
اي
بس مهما اقول لها مرات تتقبلها يعني ما ادري تتقبلها ولا لانها صغيره وقاعد تفهم
اي شلون تصرفاتها في المدرسه ولا في الحضانه؟ هايبر ها؟ اوكي، وفي البيت شلون؟
لا لما اقول لها الستوري هذا اللي هو بدها تنام يعني منسدحه قصدي هاديه، بس هل عمرها انها ما تستوعب ولا هي شيء بلاك؟ ما ادري
والله احتمال. انا اعتقد يبي لك وقت تشوفين هاو شي ديفلوبس.
اي عمر احس لا لازم.
انا ارد عليك بهذا، مثل انا عندي عوال، يعني انا عندي عوال كبر صار تقريبا. بنتي 5 سنوات، يعني لما بلشنا نقول لها كانت اوكي تحب تسمع، عشان نقول لها واحنا مثل ما قلتي بالبيت تايم. وفوز كانت يعني هم لما تاخذت نومه عندها كانت تكلمها. على بنتي الثانيه هم بعد محتضنه، وهذيك عارفه وضعها كبيره اوريدي، كان عمرها 13 سنه. فجت فتره هي عايشه نفسها صار عندها نكران، لا تقولي لي، تعالي قولي لي القصه.
بس احس مو فاهمه.
اي مو لا تفهم، هي فاهمه بس هي تسوي نفسها ما فاهمه. لا تجيني تقولي لي، لا تجيني شو اسمه، ما ابي. وبعدين بعد فتره لا ابي هي تتكلم بروحها. فهذه لازم تمر فيها الفتره هذه، ان انا ما ابي افهم، انا ما ابي اسمع، انا ما ابي شو اسمه.
لا هي احسها يعني مو عمرها مو فاهمه،
مو مستوعبه.
اي هل 4 سنين يفهمون
لا مو مستوعبه.
احس انه يحسون، بس احس انه يعني يحتاجون وقت على بو انه يستوعبون.
بس احنا قالوا لي لما كان
لا يفهمون
زين تقريبا 2 و3 سنين. فانا ما تاثرت وايد انها كانت ككلمه كمصطلح ان I'm adopted. بس اخوي اللي كان هم محتضن كان عمره 8 سنين، فهو عنده ان his life ended when they told him at 8 years old. He felt different. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you that? But for me, because I knew from the beginning, I had no issue. ما يعني ما كان عندنا مشكله ان هايدن واتنا. بس مثل ما قلت بالاخر ان شنو كانت اللي انا كنت ادور عليها، ان to find people like me. That was the goal. وهذا الجول ما وصلت لل 30s يعني ليل 30. انا بالكويت you couldn't find out.
No.
So till the 30s you find out. فعلى حسب انت تقولين when do you tell your child it's a word, yes, you're adopted. That makes you more special.
adopted
Yes, it was.
لا أنا بعيدا بس يعني.
She said yes, you were adopted and I got you from a special
عادي
place.
عادي لازم يدري.
اي
يعرف يعرف.
You don't fully understand the concept. You don't fully understand the concept, but that way it goes into your vocabulary and it's not a shocker in the long run.
When she hears it again.
Yes, when she hears it, or if you hear from school, when the file comes down and they go, oh, the adoptive mother is this and this, you don't get a shock.
Because you know.
Because it's already there. In the word. So it's not when somebody approaches you and goes, oh, we heard you were adopted. Or what, no, you're like, yeah.
No, but honestly, why I don't say it, I'm scared she will go tell the nannies and go tell everybody, and maybe she's not ready to share her story.
Why not?
Maybe she's not ready. Maybe when she's 6, like, why you tell me this? I tell everybody. You know, I want to respect her. You know, I know not.
It's disrespecting her by not letting her know part of her identity. You actually, for her to be able, for you worried about her saying she's adopted. No, she should be proud of it. She should not. This whole mentality here in Kuwait of, hiding it. It makes it worse in the long run.
You don't regret like 6 years, 7 years.
I'll tell you, when I came back to Kuwait, is the only time I felt adopted. Is in this culture, in this society. But that has to be broken from a younger age. Over here, that's the most important thing. So think of it as a vocabulary. How old is your child now?
She's gonna be 5.
The student, don't wait too long. Yes, you say it. I got you from a special place.
Yeah,
I got you from a special place, and they call it adopted, they call it this, but I'm your mother, and there was, and slowly get the story. It will be emotional for her. Better to get it over if she's still in the KG levels, to get it over with now, than it to affect her in the schooling years later on, when it will stop her schooling and everything. Younger children are more resilient than older children. The older you get, the less resilient we get.
Of course.
Thank you. That's so useful to hear. But he's more experienced.
Thank you.
الله يعطيكم العافية صراحة. It's been very useful and I feel like I learned a lot more from you guys than you learned from me. But it's been very useful. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences.
اللي شو اسمه reactive attachment disorder or whatever.
الاتاتشمنت
اكو شيء اسمه reactive attachment اللي they try not to form a bond.
I think that صراحة I don't know much about. I know attachment styles. I know how to work with that. أنا مشكلتي إن I work with adults more than with children. But I have done some research with children. So.
Can I call everyone for dinner? Yeah?